Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. And today we're going to continue on our RV seminar series. And I just want to say before we get started, if you stay tuned to the end, we'll have a giveaway where you could win either a digital download of our full-time RV finance book or free access to our budgeting module on our, what's the name of it?
Full-time RV finance course.
So stay tuned to the end and see how you can win.
So we're continuing our RV show series, and today's video is going to be all about how to find the best campgrounds for you.
So just a quick introduction for those of you that are new to the channel. We're Sean and Julie Chicory. We both spent 20 years in the military, and when we stopped working for the military, we decided we wanted to travel and see the country because we hadn't really seen it, even though we had been traveling the whole time in the military. But you're always working. So we wanted to go back and see those places again. So we bought an RV. We lived in it full time for 6 years. We started with a 44-foot Heartland Cyclone, and we downsized after a few years to a 30-foot Arctic Fox.
So the first question that I always ask people when you're trying to decide what the best campground is, before you can find where to find them, you have to know what it best means to you. And so I say, ask yourself, are you a camper or are you a glamper? I'm probably more glamper and Sean's more camper. So if you have a situation like that, you just got to compromise, right? So real quick, I just want to run through a couple examples to make sure that we're all sharing the same terminology. So in the RV space, you'll have RV resorts. And RV resorts typically have something called full hookup, water, power, and sewer right at your site. But then they go a little bit further than that, and they also have like a prime location, like you see in this photo here, right, being waterfront, or they have a lot of amenities. We've stayed at a place that had 2 pools, 2 hot tubs, a bar and a restaurant, one where they took your drink orders right at the pool. So those types of things make it a resort. And I explain what's in a resort because just having the word resort in the name doesn't necessarily mean it's a resort. It's what they are offering. And then the next level is something that's more like an RV park, is what I call it. It's more of a place that is near a destination that you want to be. It might have the basic amenities, like it might have a simple swimming pool, but not one with a water slide. And the spots, like you see in the photo here, it's like I said, it's kind of like a little fancy parking lot, right? You have a little bit of greenery, but you can definitely see your neighbors. And these typically also do have the full hookup, water, power, and sewer right at your site. And then what I consider more of a campground style is like your state parks and your national parks and even your small mom and pop privately owned campgrounds. And these are definitely more for the outdoorsy people who are enjoying nature. They're usually in nice locations. You have a little more space. You have a little more greenery or trees or, whatever the local flora and fauna is at your site. You have it right there. And this, though, sometimes you do sacrifice the full hookup for what's known as the partial hookup. And that usually means water and power at your site, although the power might only be 30 amp. So if you have a 50 amp RV, you're not going to be able to use everything and you're going to need an adapter. But it's the trade-off for usually the low price and the natural surroundings.
The other option is boondocking or dry camping, and this can be done in many different ways. Some simple ways that people do it when they're driving between locations are rest areas, Walmarts, Cabela's, Cracker Barrels, Flying J's, all those places where they allow you to stop overnight while you're on your journey. And these can be good, and we've stayed at a few of them and have really found it convenient when we're just finding a place to stop and get some sleep. The other option is you can stay at places like Boondockers Welcome or Harvest Hosts. And these are places where either in Boondockers Welcome, they will allow, it's privately owned property and they allow people to park overnight, maybe 1 or 2 nights on their property um, for free. And so that's a great option. The other one, Harvest Host, is businesses, could be farms, ranches, wineries, breweries, golf courses, where they allow you to park overnight in their spots. And in exchange, they ask for you to uh, patronize their business or visit their business. And a lot of them are great businesses, so you end up spending more money than you wanted to stay there. So it's not really a money saving thing, because if you like wine and you stay at a winery, you're going to spend a few bucks on wine. But it is a great option and a great way to learn about local communities and local businesses. And just one tip, the price for Harvest Host is going up pretty soon. So if you want to lock in the less expensive version, you can click on the link in our description and it will take you to the website so you can sign up before that price goes up to $99.
Yeah, it's going up to $99. And then Boondockers Welcome is also a membership. So both of them are a membership where you have to buy an annual membership and then you can use it unlimited throughout the year.
And then you also have Bureau of Land Management land or other federal or state lands that allow you to stay. Sometimes you need a permit to camp on that land, and many times you don't. It's completely free. You just have to leave no trace and clean up your site, and don't leave any trash or anything, and don't disturb any of the wildlife or natural surroundings. Very popular one is Quartzsite. And at the long-term visitor area at Quartzsite, you can pay a permit fee there. It's $180 for 180 days. So you can stay there for $1 a night. The one thing about all these boondocking or dry camping locations is they don't have any hookups. So you're relying on what you brought in your RV, your holding tanks, your propane, your generators, your solar power to make it through your stay there. The next thing is you're going to want to develop a checklist. And this can be different for every trip that you're going to take in your RV. Pick what's going to be important to you on that trip. And it could be everything from what kind of power you need. Do you need sewer at your site? Do you need a dump station close by? What activities do you want, and what amenities do you want to see at the place where you're going to stay? And this can be different every time. Like we said, one trip you may be going to a major tourist destination and you want all the hookups so you can take full advantage of the destination and not have to worry about any of the other stuff. Another time you may want to go to a national park and you're not really interested in all the hookups. You can stay in one of their dry camping areas and take advantage of being in the destination itself and enjoying the scenery and the sounds of nature.
So once you know what you want, you got to know where you want it to be, right? And so what I'm talking about here is your route planning. In a minute, we'll get into your actual like directions and what you need for that. But first, just using a map, whether it's a paper map or Google Maps, or an atlas. A trucker's atlas is really good too. Just kind of looking out and saying, okay, like here's generally where I want to go. And so within this radius is where I'm hoping to find a campground.
And one thing I'll say about a paper atlas, if you're going to use a paper atlas, like a trucker's atlas especially, make sure you have the most updated version, because it's going to show you the low crossings and things like that. So you want to have the most updated version, because as you know, road construction occurs all the time and things change. So make sure you have that updated version if you're still using paper. Now, as far as driving, you can use an RV GPS. Don't use a car GPS because, again, it won't take you around those low crossings or
Low
weight,
bridges.
yeah, weight restrictions, things like that. Get an RV GPS, and our friends at Techno RV have good deals on RV GPSs, and we buy all of our techno type stuff, RV technical type stuff there because they've used the product themselves and they only sell the products that they trust and like. So um, check them out. We'll put a link in the description below. For our driving, we use an app called Copilot RV, and this is $29 a year, and you buy it, and it is fully updated. It connects with your smartphone or tablet as long as you have a connection, and it will download your driving directions, and you can download them and save them in case you lose cellular connection, or you can leave it on cellular the whole time. And then if you get somewhere where there's a detour, it will reroute you using that way. And it's worked great for us. We haven't gotten stuck or had to turn around anywhere, and we've been using it for a few years now. So really like that option. And like I said, it's $29.99 a year, but if you download it right before your next trip, you can have a 14-day free trial and see if you like it.
So you know what you want, you know where you want to go. Let's figure out how to find that best campground for you. And I'll run through some examples with a few different planning tools that I like to use. So the first thing that I said was with a map. So let me just show you an example using Google Maps just for a general idea. We were at the Crescent City Redwoods KOA down in the bottom here, and I knew I wanted to go to Crater Lake National Park, but I learned that the camping area there was not open yet. So all I'm doing right now is using something like a Google Maps to know about how far away it is. So it's not day trip for me. I'm not going to do a 3 hour to get there kind of day trip, and gives me an idea of how close I want to get to the actual national park. And then what I do is I'll use something like Campendium is the example I'm going to use here. The thing I like about Campendium is they have a free version and you can use it on your phone or on your computer. There's also something called Allstays, Allstays, and you can also use that on your computer or on your phone, but there is a charge. I think it's around $15. But I really like Campendium. It works so well for me. I used Allstays a little bit in the beginning and I don't quite as much now, but both of them are really good. So again, here now I'm just typing in that I want to stay at Crater Lake. And then the thing I really like about it, and I especially like to do it on my computer because I can see a little bit better when I use this side-by-side view. There's a couple different views that you can use, but I like this one because over on the right side, you'll see the map and where you want to go. And then over on the left, you'll see a list of the different campgrounds and if anyone has stayed there. And what I mean by that is Campendium is a user-sourced program. So it's people, different RVers have actually stayed there and put information about it. So here you can see that the first one is that National Park Campground. Although, like I told you, it's not going to work for us on this trip because we know that the campground's not open yet. So another great thing about Campendium, and Allstays also does this too, is that you can filter by certain things. So you can look by distance. If I say want to be within 30 miles, or maybe I might want to say, oh, I can day trip 60 miles. And then you might also want to go by whether it's the highest rated or if it has the most reviews so that you can get more information. If you're like me, I like to get a lot of data points before I make a decision. And then you can also choose if you want a public campground like a national park, state park, city park, Army Corps of Engineer. If you want to stay, their idea of an RV park is anything privately owned. So it can be that range of all the things I mentioned, resort, RV park, and campground, but it's privately owned. So parking here means dry camping, and it can be anything from a casino parking lot or a Cracker Barrel to actual boondocking. And then the last one is it helps you find dump stations if you are dry camping. So if you look over at the map on the right, you can see that this particular area has a whole lot of the public campgrounds, a little bit of RV park. And the reason why they don't have parking or dump stations is because no user has uploaded any information. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist, but it would be a little bit harder for you to find. You would have to use some other apps, like Sandy Dumps is one that a lot of people use to find a dump station. And then another great thing about Campendium and other apps like this is that you can also filter on the price. Now, the one caveat I want to tell you about this is based on the user. So for example, Sean and I, as disabled veterans, get 50% off all of the national campgrounds. So that means national parks, national forests, Corps of Engineer. If we stay at one of those and we upload the price we paid, that's 50% off, and you might not be eligible for that price. So just kind of take that price with a grain of salt. What we'll do is when we write a review and we upload the price we paid, we put a note. This was with this discount. But not everyone does that, so always verify the price. And then you can also click specific things that you're looking for. Like if you want just 30 amp or just 50 amp, if you need the RV length, and different policies, like if you want it to be 55 plus, or if you want to make sure pets are allowed. And once you've picked all those things, it's going to give you a list of campgrounds that fall into your requirements. So now you're not having to go through so much information. And here was one for us that was only about 30 miles away. And I thought, oh, this sounds like a good option. And it was a state park. So what it does is it gives you even more additional information now that we're in the view just for that campground. You can see the number of stars, the last price paid, how many sites they have, and their season was March through October instead of June through October as the national park was. So that was great for us. When you're ready to make the reservation, over on the left here under the name, you see it says a phone number and then also official website, and it's blue. And that means it's a link through. You can click on it and actually go to their site and make the reservation. And then you'll also notice there's even some user photos that have been uploaded.
And before we move on to reviews, the other thing we really like about Campendium is that it will show the cell signal.
Why don't you go back to that slide and show them? Yeah, so down there on the bottom.
Yeah, it shows the cell phone coverage. So if you have Verizon or T-Mobile or AT&T, if people have stayed there, they can put how many bars they got of the service. And so that's really handy if you need cell service while you're in that area. You can find a campground that has the best service coverage for your particular provider. And so then the next thing we want to do when we find a campground or a couple campgrounds is read the reviews on them. And you don't just want to look for 1 or 2 reviews, which is why we don't really use Campendium for that, because there's just not a lot of reviews in there yet for a lot of campgrounds. So we use other things like TripAdvisor that will have reviews. RV Park Reviews is another one. So you want to look for a great number of reviews. And then you don't just want to look at the stars, because people may have expected different things than you're expecting at the campground and may have different camping style than what you're looking for. And so the reviews, you actually have to read the reviews instead of looking at the stars. So read it with an eye on what's important to you, not is what was most important to them. So you got to kind of read between the lines. Also with TripAdvisor, people can upload visitor photos. So you're looking at how the campground looks now instead of how it looked when they were taking those marketing photos several years ago. So you get to see how has it been kept up, what do the sites really look like, all that kind of stuff if you look in places like TripAdvisor.
The other thing I really like about reading the reviews is that people will tell you tips like if there's three loops, A, B, and C. The A loop is a little tight. You might want to try the B and C. Or the C loop is open sun. There's no trees. And so you can pick up those little tidbits by actually reading what people are writing. And here is just one example of what it looks like in Campendium, but it's very similar in those other sites that Sean told you about. And the great thing about Campendium is it tells you what type of RV they have, if you notice in the top left. And I really like that because if they have, like we have a fifth wheel and they have a 41-foot fifth wheel that they're pulling with a big truck. So we also have a big truck, and it kind of gives us that kind of idea about that as well. If they can stay there, we can stay there. But they did put that in their comments. And I'm going to show you two different examples to show you how if you're only looking at the stars, people rate it completely different. This is a 5-star review, and they said that they stayed in September and they really enjoyed it. There were plenty of big rig sites, but all of them aren't big rigs, so you might need reservations. They talked about a park and hiking and bike riding and a marina. So overall, it sounded like they really enjoyed it. Now, if we look at the next example, this was the same campground, and it was a 3-star review. And one of the reasons for them it was 3 stars is because even though the sites were spacious, and it said most with some privacy, and they liked the bathroom. If you go on a little bit, they didn't really love the area or the actual campground itself. So they did like the sites, they did like the bathhouse, they liked all those things, but they said the area was kind of meh. So for some reason, they said that the trails were a little tamed or too well groomed. It was more, and the water was low in the reservoir. These are not really things I think that the park really has a lot of control over. But so are you a challenge hiker and you want that right at your campsite, then you're probably going to agree with them that it was kind of vanilla. If you enjoy the nature walks around the campground and you're going to the national park, say for your more intensive hiking, then you're not going to have a problem with it. We actually decided to choose this campground based on our staying. So you just have to decide what's best for you.
They also indicate that the marina store wasn't very well stocked. And if you're a seasoned RVer, you know that's usually the case. And you also know not to rely on them anyway, because the prices are going to be a lot higher than what you would pay at a grocery store. So that wasn't really important to us either, because we had already learned that lesson in the past about relying on the camp stores or the marina stores for stocking up on your groceries.
So as you can see from these two examples, reading the actual review is very important. And then many times you'll also pick up other great tidbits about picking not only the best campground, but picking the best site within the campground. I mean, that really to me is the gold in these reviews, is many times people will talk about like where the best spots are and stuff like that. And since we started using this process where I actually read reviews, it takes a little more time, but we have never been disappointed.
So we hope you enjoyed the presentation on how we find the best campgrounds for us, and hopefully you can take some lessons from that and use them yourself. If you go to our website, chicory'stravels.com, and go to /show, we have a ton of resources related to all of our seminars that we do, and lots of resources there. We also have a couple of books. One is on RV water systems preventive maintenance, and the other is on full-time RV finance. And then we also have a course called Full-Time RV Finance. And I'll just stop the share right now, and we can talk about the giveaway. So Thanks for staying tuned through the entire presentation / video. Our seminars at RV shows are much longer than this, so if you see us coming to an RV show near you, please come by and say hello. So for the giveaway, we have this great background here, and the first person to correctly guess the national park that we're in for this photo will win either your choice of a digital download of our book, Full-Time RV Finance, or free access to our budget module on our Full-Time RV Finance course. And they're both pretty good value. The budget module is $15, and then our book on Amazon is a little less than that, but still packed full of information. So the first person to tell us what this national park is will get their choice of one of those.
And that's going to be by putting it in the comments below. So go ahead real quick, type your guess. The actual national park that that this photo is in right here. And then we will reply to your comment. If you're the winner, we'll give you our email address for you to contact us and let us know your email address so we can get the prize to you.
And we'll give one hint here. Well, besides that it's a national park, that's one hint. And the second hint is it's not Crater Lake that we talked about in this video. So good luck on winning, and until we see you on the road, safe travels.